Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to talk about them again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's a senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. Again, Denise is at 425-309-2318. Visit acmehomeswa.com right now. Don't wait. Thank you again for listening to the Quarterback Dadcast. So with that, let's get right to today's episode. Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox again with Quarterback Dadcast. We are in season 3. Shout out to my dad, Big Mike Jacox. Rest in peace. This season is for you. Thank you again for everything you've done for me. For those that have listened to previous episodes, obviously I talked about the challenge of losing my father late in season 2, but I know he's in a better spot now. And without further ado, I'm excited to announce our next guest. This gentleman I met him through the power of the internet, and he proactively reached out, and we actually had a great conversation during the holidays. We are now recording in January. This episode will come out sometime in the next few months, but his name is Chris Wunder. He is the Chief Revenue Officer of a company called Leap. He's also a partner there, so we'll learn more about that. He's an executive recruiter. He's got M&A experience. He also runs the $1 Million Recruiter brand on Instagram. We'll learn about that. Guy's got M&A experience, real estate. I don't know what else he's done, but his 2 favorite job titles the most are father and husband. So now his ego's massive, but we're going to learn all about that stuff. But mainly he's here to talk about how he's working hard to become that ultimate quarterback and leader of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Chris Wunder, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Casey, thank you so much for having me today. I think we had a chance to talk last week a little bit more about what I have going on professionally. And, I've done a little bit more of these podcasts the past couple of months, but I have to say I am more excited about any one than today's. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you bet. Well, we always start out every episode with what are you most grateful for as a father right now?
I've been preparing for this one as I've been listening to all the podcasts that you've done over the past couple of months. And I think I told you we are about 6 weeks away from the birth of my daughter arriving on February 23rd. So I am just grateful. My wife was at her doctor today. Baby's looking good, measuring out well. So we're just kind of counting down the days for her to get here. And of course, I have a beautiful 2.5-year-old son who is just the light in my eye. Everything that I do is for him. And I have to say, to have a healthy household, I can't ask for much more than that.
No, love it, man. I'm grateful for, obviously I've done a lot of these, so I have to get really creative with my gratitude, which it's good because it keeps me present. I'm massively grateful for my wife this morning, because last night, I hate to throw my son on blast, but he was struggling with a little bit with one of his classes, and just like life lessons, one of my mentors said, the learning is in the struggle. And we had a great family moment last night where my wife was so patient and helped my son Ryder get through something. They worked hard on it, and then I took him to school early to get a little bit more help for a class. And just, it's just another good lesson of, life's not easy, but when you can attack things that are hard and then you get through it, it's such an awesome feeling. And I'm so proud of my wife, how patient she was, and how my son, like at times was got defensive, but then he was like super coachable and got a good outcome this morning with a teacher. And so I'm grateful for that experience. And I wanted to like speak up so many times, but I just bit my lip and said, I'm gonna stay in my lane and let them do their thing. And it ended up being a great experience for my son and wife. So I'm grateful for them.
That's awesome. You got to celebrate all the small wins too, right?
Oh, 100%. Okay, so I want to tell me about the people in the huddle right now. So you got your wife, you got yourself, you got your 2.5-year-old son, and you have your daughter who will be here in 6 weeks. So tell me a little bit about what does the day in the life of the Wunder household look like?
Yeah. So first and foremost, the wife is not in the huddle, right? So you always say that the quarterback is the leader on the field. My wife is very much the coach. She's the leader off the field. She keeps us all in check. This entire household.
Yeah.
She is a career-oriented person, works as much, if not more, than I do, and she still holds this entire household together. So I have to give her every piece of respect that I possibly can. She is really the reason why we are where we are today, and why I've been able to really chase a lot of my dreams. The support that she's kind of really always given me over the past, almost 10 years now, has been unmatched. When you really find that life partner, you never really know what you're going to get yourself into. And being a product of divorce, I just realized how unbelievable grateful I am to have not only my best friend that lives with me, but someone that just supports everything that I want to do. So yeah, I have to give as much gratitude as I can about her personally, because she is doing everything, to the point of raising our kid, working 10, 12 hours a day. And I will tell you, my kid is strong. He is smart. He doesn't get the brains from me. He doesn't get the looks from me. So thank God my kids get all of that from her. And
Yeah.
I'm praying to God that my daughter gets to follow in his footsteps and gets all the good qualities of my wife, and just a couple of little pieces of Chris Wunder speckled in there as well.
There you go. There you go. Tell me how you and your wife met.
Oh, God, this could be a really long story, but I'll keep it as brief as possible. So she hates when I say this. I grew up the fat kid growing up. Went to Catholic school my entire life up until 7th grade. I finally talked my mother into allowing me to go to public school. I think it was kind of a forceful thing we needed to do, because during that time, Eminem coming up, right, we all did the dyed hair to look like Marshall Mathers. And I was kind of quietly asked to leave school because I didn't want to change my hair color. So growing up playing sports, I was always the overweight kid. So I always played 2 to 3 levels up in terms of my age level. And I guess with the cheerleaders, they always do the kind of the same thing. They always cheer for a grade level above. So my wife kind of being the star head cheerleader, I always just wanted to have a conversation with her, but being the fat kid with no self-confidence, I never had the chance to, right? So I always admired her from afar through 7th and 8th grade. We had kind of separated thereafter. She went to public school. I went to a Catholic high school. During that time, on and off relationships with one girl specifically for about 6 years. And one day we were literally playing poker at my house, probably drinking one too many. I'd broken up with my girlfriend maybe a couple of hours before that. And again, power of internet, I jumped on Facebook and I just sent a message to the one girl I never thought I could get a date with. That would be my wife, Lauren. And I asked her out on a date, and kind of history from there. I took her out to see a movie, and I will tell you, and most people don't believe me when I say this, I bought a ring 2 weeks after our very first date. I gave it to her about 2 weeks thereafter. Everyone thought I was absolutely crazy. They thought she was pregnant, and it was the best decision I ever made. When I knew what I knew, it was really easy to make that end up happening. And, after a long 2-year engagement, we realized we made the right decision. We've been together for 10 years now.
It's very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're no longer the fat kid. You're like the yoked CrossFit dude. So how did you go from the chubby kid into this intense fitness world?
Yeah, so I guess it was high school, right? I got to reinvent myself. Having gone to a Catholic high school that was a couple of towns away, there weren't many kids that I grew up with that went to that same school. So I got to reinvent who Chris Wunder was. So being the very athletic lineman that I was, I decided I no longer wanted to do that. I wanted to be the receiver, the running back. And I knew if I wanted to do that, I had to lose a little bit of weight. So I don't think it was intentional the way it happened. Had a little bit of a growth spurt going into it and got a lot more active in my day-to-day. Probably lost about 30 pounds. And even as a 14-year-old, that was a substantial amount of weight. And, once I realized that I had self-confidence in the way I looked, you saw that really come out in myself and my attitude. And I really just kind of took it from there. And, that's the guy that you see today. I just never wanted to get back to that feeling of I don't respect myself. I don't like what I see in the mirror. Hate to say I'm there a little bit right now, but I've been there before, so I'm getting back to it.
There you go. Yeah, it's funny how like life is, even like in my line of work and coaching and speaking, and it's just we're always just everybody's we're all flawed for one, but we're all trying to just make sure we have the right habits that are going to continue to produce the right outcomes each day, from our emotions to our eating to our fitness. Doesn't matter anything, relationships, but I think life's all about habits.
Yeah, and habit's the right word, right? So I grew up having to do a lot of fad diets. Again, being the overweight kid to make weight for the football team, my mother would starve me for weeks on end on the Atkins diet. It was back then, running around the football field, just laced up in garbage bags to lose weight for that one game. And then 20 minutes before cook-off, all the fat kids, we got to eat as much as we wanted before we went out there. And honestly, play the games a bit groggy. But, it's been a lot of trial and error to kind of get my lifestyle where I need to be. I realized that I'm not always going to count my macros every single day, but I know where that balance is. Do I practice it every day? Probably not, but I live by a certain 80-20 rule that as long as I can execute that, I'm never going to get back to where I was back then.
Yep. No, that's good. I think life's about, moderation. I think sometimes when we go too far one way or another, like, I love people after New Year's. It's like, all right, get back in the gym, run the marathon. Well, why don't we start with the 400? Maybe just, maybe start with 15 push-ups. Start with something you can feel good about yourself. But, okay. So I want to rewind the tape. I want to learn more about how you grew up. You said you were a product of divorce. So your parents got divorced. I hear that.
Yeah, so don't quote me on the exact age, but I think they actually got divorced when I was 2 or 3. Okay. I hate to say it, and even if my mother listens to this, I'm sure she's going to agree. We came from a very broken household. Father was an alcoholic. Thankfully, never laid a hand on us, but was obviously very, very emotionally and physically abusive to my mother. It got to a point where she finally said enough's enough, and she got the courage enough to divorce him. And during that time, I remember going to meet with the judge for the custody hearing. And, as a 3 and 4 year old, my brother being the older one, a judge asking, who do you want to live with? Right. And it's really hard to answer that question because you didn't know this man, your father, who was just an absolute nightmare, right? Just an absolute scumbag. And I hate to say that, but it's true because it's really developed who I am. So we were fortunate enough to move in with my grandparents. My mother thought that us having a Catholic schooling or education was the right way to go. So every dime that she made at that time being a nurse went to paying for our tuition. And she sacrificed a lot for us to move in with our grandparents. And at the time, it was a very small 3-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, 3 generations living in there between my grandparents, my uncle, who was a little bit younger than my mother, and then me and my 2 brothers, who shared a room until we were 15, 16 years old. My mother slept on a couch for 20 years, not a pull-out couch, a couch in the living room, just so she can make sure that her kids had the best upbringing they possibly can. So, she doesn't take a lot of credit for it in the way that she shaped us. She gives a lot of credit to other influences in our lives, but I saw how hard she worked and everything that she did for her kids and all the sacrifices she made. So if I could just be a tenth of what she did, I think I'm doing the right thing.
Did you, I can't remember when we were communicating, did you tell me you listened to Chris Nielsen's episode?
I did. It was the very first one I listened to. The second we got off the phone last week, went down to the gym, didn't have music on, just listened to the Chris Nielsen podcast, which unbelievable how similar that was.
I was going to say, how did you find him? Why did you pick that one?
I don't even know. I just started scrolling through it and something stuck out about the summary and I forget exactly what it had said, but I'm like, that's the one I need to listen to. And
that's like honestly, serendipity.
Yeah. Hooked. Absolutely hooked.
Your stories are very, I love hearing stories like yourself. Chris, I'll connect you guys after this.
Okay. That'd be great.
He's a great dude. And whatever, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like, okay, you get put in a box. Oh, there's no way this guy's going to be successful. There's no way this guy's going to be successful. And you guys said, F that.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing what you've done. And I don't know, we may take our time getting through the story here, but to come from that and, I'd love to know, tell me where you think the strength or wisdom that your mom had and the wherewithal to be able to kind of go from maybe being in a tough situation, well, not maybe very tough situation, to being able to like be so selfless to be able to be there and know, okay, have the vision to see what she wants for you guys and to be able to make a successful outcome. Tell me where you think that came from.
Yeah, I think that came from her own upbringing. I don't know enough about it. It's one thing that they kind of keep us in the dark on a little bit, but I know that she didn't have a great upbringing either. She did grow up with a father and a mother and two loving siblings, but they didn't have a lot growing up. I wouldn't say at the poverty line, but pretty darn close to it. And she knew that if she had to make all the sacrifices for her adult life, in order for her kids to be happy and successful, she was going to do that. I knew that I wanted to make sure that I got to enjoy some of my adulthood as well, but do the same exact thing. So that's what I've been trying to do with everything that I do and why I work so hard. I want to make sure that every generation we're progressing that much more, right? Never get
Mhm.
so easy where we have so much money where kids take really advantage of it or take it for granted, but enough that they don't have to worry about if they want a new pair of shoes or go out and see a movie. And I think that's the one thing I give my mother a lot of credit for. We ask for things all the time like kids do growing up, very expensive, high ticket items as well, right? We, rode quads and dirt bikes. We were professional paintball players for a short stint, and these were very expensive sports. Knowing full well that she didn't have the money, but she found a way to do it, whether it was working an extra shift or picking up something else to earn that extra income. She never made us feel like we were less than people that we had been surrounded by. And I guess that's probably one of the best things that she instilled with me is you can have nothing and still find a way to be really happy.
Mm. That's crazy. That's awesome. What, now, do you have any relationship with your father?
No, I'm not going to say the word thankfully because I don't think it's ever nice when someone passes away, but I believe I was a senior in high school. We had gotten the word that he was drunk driving and he had crashed into a telephone pole. I believe he was living in North Carolina at the time, so we had very limited contact with him. 15 years, prior to that, he had maybe reached out once or twice when we were a bit younger, trying to buy back our love with video games and random other things. And as we got older, and me specifically, I was definitely asked to age a little bit faster than my other two brothers, even my older one. I kind of understood what my mother was going through, so I really never wanted to have a relationship with him. But I would say he probably didn't try too hard.
Hmm. Wow. Sad, man. But I love how you found the positivity and the strength to move forward. Tell me about your brothers. Are they where's everybody filling the age and what are they doing right now?
Yeah, so my older brother Brian, I'm 32, so he's 34 right now. He is and always has been one of those blue collar guys. He loves getting his hands dirty, whether that's doing tree service, landscaping, working on a farm. He's a big hunter. I would say growing up, I was kind of the black sheep of the family. We had a hunting cabin in New York and up in Maine. Never really had the patience for it, so my family kind of gravitated towards that lifestyle, and my brother kind of ran with it. Went to school in Tennessee for a couple of years, like most kids. Wasn't really ready to go to college. Didn't really fit into the whole mold of what a formalized education would be. So he's very happy and content doing what he's doing. And my younger brother, very, very different than both of us, right? We were all very athletic. My younger brother, Matt, was the baseball player, and then in high school decided he no longer wanted to play. And he actually fell into the musician lifestyle. I think it started with guitar, electric, and then acoustic. Then he became a little bit of a DJ, and then getting into rap and hip hop, like all musicians, just kind of changing up that style. And to keep this story pretty short, I had moved my older brother Brian out to Kansas City when I first started working with Leap Hospitality, Leap Recruit. He had worked for me for a little bit of time, had some success, but again, he's not someone that you can stick in an office for 10 hours a day and say make calls or do the recruiting thing. So he ended up moving home. But during that time, my younger brother moved back out to Kansas City, which is where he is today. He fell in love with the city. He is an apprentice doing tile work right now. Absolutely loves it. Still does the music, but I think he's aging a little bit more beyond his years. I think he just turned 30 this year. So he wants to learn a trade and hopefully one day start a business, which I really hope that I can help him out with one day.
That's awesome. Very cool. Did so you're not handy or you are handy?
I like to say I'm handy, and I hate to say it in this way. The more money I've made over the past couple of years, the less handy I have gotten. I realized that I'd rather hire a professional to do the work, but my wife and I flipped a couple of properties when we were in Kansas City. I did a lot of that work myself. Our very first home, we did a lot of renovations, did that. And probably about 6 years during high school, my couple of years in college, I actually did construction. So I believe I could build a house from the ground up. It won't look very nice, but I know the steps we need to do in order to make it happen.
So that's impressive. I will tell you that if you Googled world's worst handyman and then
Okay.
click on images, you're going to find the guy you're looking at right now. I mean, I like to think like I'm a great sous chef, like a good second mate, yay. But like, to me, you said earlier about the hunting. It's patience. I am not patient with that. And we'll get into this later about kind of gaps of, very self-aware about it. It's a mindset thing for whatever reason, how my brain works. I'm very patient with other things. I'm creative with other things, but whatever, I don't see the outcome when they're talking building stuff. And then when they build it, I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just not my game.
It's funny. So of course my son, just wanting everything under the sun, right? And of course everything requires assembly. Directions nowadays, if you read them, they're absolute dog shit. So you kind of have to make it up as you go. So every single toy, everything my son has gotten, I have personally built. And I don't know if you listen to Bill Burr, the comedian, but one of his very first skits quite a few years back, he says, losing your shit as a man is part of the process of building these things. So every single toy you will see that my son owns, there's one thing that's missing, one thing that's broken, because I've had that happen every single time. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, like you spoke my language there, bro. Like I remember like putting together stuff when my kids were younger, and my wife's like, "Hey, there's 2 screws left." I'm like, "No, there's not." They're like, "Yes, there are." I'm looking around. I'm like, "Well, then throw them away," because the thing obviously works. Put together. Then like freaking 6 months later, it's like breaking. I'm like, "Whoops, a daisy, my bad."
Yeah, that happens a little bit too often in this household.
Cool. So I want to go back. You shared something with me when we first met. We're talking about my father, and you obviously December 29th, 2021 will always be a date in my mind, 12:55. That's when I lost my father. And then you opened up, and I did not know you shared a story when you and your wife lost your first daughter. I know this is a tough conversation, but I'd love to have if you can, share a little bit about that, because I think that this is a story that I think other people will relate to, some dads or families at home. I think it can be a powerful message of how you can find the strength to move forward, and because you're about to welcome your baby daughter here in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think as we get closer to our daughter getting here, it's definitely becoming a tougher conversation again, right? Losing a child is something you never want to do, and although we never got to have the years that we had with our son, that love was there from the moment we were finding out that we were pregnant again that second time. But yeah, we lost her on January 3rd of 2021, just a couple of weeks earlier than God had anticipated her getting here to sustain life. And, when I reflect back on it, it's still by far the worst day of my life, but I also look at it as a little bit of a positive day, right? A lot of parents, when they lose kids through miscarriages or, losing a child a little bit earlier on in a pregnancy, they don't get the opportunity to actually spend time with that one. I got to spend, a couple of hours with Sissy, an hour before she actually passed away. I got to read her a book. I got to hold a little teddy bear next to her. I got to talk to her. She got to hear my voice outside of the womb. So yeah, it was definitely challenging. Every single holiday that passes, every special date is that much harder and never gets any easier. But I had a rock in this household. For some reason, the mother, the wife, was the one holding me together. Mm-hmm. She let me break down every single day about this, and she's the reason why I am not a absolute bloody mess right now. But I would say I definitely did not take the loss in the healthiest of ways. Again, I told you I'm a product of an alcoholic. So I kind of fell a little bit into that, and I used it as an excuse to kind of cover up some of my emotions and all my feelings that I was going through. So I buried myself in work. I buried myself in my son, maybe neglected my wife a bit more than she deserves, but it made it very easy every single night while I was doing my second and third work shift to have a 6-pack, have a bottle of wine. And, it became every other day to every single day. And then finally, my wife had asked me, do I need help? Is something really going on? Because, at that point I was going to bed so late at night, she didn't really realize what I was going through. And that's when all those emotions were coming out. So, since then I have to look at it again. I made it 35 days without a drink. I fell off a little bit. I think I'm 11 days again. I'm starting to feel really, really good. But yeah, I personally did not do it in the healthiest of ways, but I'm realizing now what the right ways would have been. So anyone listening to this, what you need to do is, bury yourself in the positive things. I have a beautiful son who keeps me active. I have an unbelievable and supportive wife who would love to date me every single night if she had the opportunity to, but she knows how invested I am in my work, and she gives me, the opportunities to fuel my addictions, right? And having an addictive personality, it can be working out, it can be working, whatever your drink of the day is going to be, right? And she feeds into those positive ones for me. So just find find some light in every situation. God has a path for all of us. And, as much as you don't agree with him and you can lose really sight of what he was trying to do, everything happens for a reason. I still don't know what that reason is quite yet, but I do know it's given me the opportunity to bring this new girl into this world, because we were going to stop it too, no matter what. So if that's what God had to tell me for some reason, then that's what we're getting. So yeah, I am, getting long winded there. I'm trying not to cry on you, Casey.
No, dude, that's powerful stuff, dude. It's, when I started this podcast, I got goosebumps. So thank you about that. When I started this podcast 3 years ago, shout out to my boy Ty Nunez, receiver of mine in college. He was the reason why this thing got off the ground, and I'll continue to show him gratitude for that. But I wanted to build a platform where dads can share about this stuff, right? Because no one's perfect. We don't all have our shit figured out. I sure as hell don't. And I'm the host of this podcast. I still got gaps. There's things I want to get better at. And I want to be the best dad I can be today. And if someone's listening, if someone hears a story, what you just shared, Chris, was not easy, right? And I think some people can admit to themselves, some might not admit that they drank too much for a little bit to deal with it stuff. I know I've done that before. I came from my dad, unfortunately, was an alcoholic too, and drinking is something I'm very cognizant of, and knowing when, hey, if I feel like, hey, it's been a few days, maybe I should take 2-3 days off and just chill, or, you get in those social environments. But I'm very self-aware of, I know I have to be careful because that runs in my family, it runs in my wife's family. I think there's times where it can be very okay, but it has to be the right decision for anybody out there. But it's funny, I've interviewed multiple people and where they've talked about their sobriety, and I think it's so cool. If that's the decision you want to do, and then again, if there's dads listening that get inspiration from that, great. We just help people get better.
Yeah. And it's funny when you think about sobriety and being an alcoholic, and I forget the exact definition, but if you have 24 drinks in any given week, you're an alcoholic. Doesn't mean you're blacking out every night. It doesn't mean that you're a functioning alcoholic and you absolutely are fiending for a drink, but it's just when you're doing it too much, and you just see the negative effects that one, it puts on relationships, which I didn't realize until I started getting a lot more clarity, and I made it through that 35, 40 days, whatever that number was. My wife would just look at me differently. Like, she's like, I'm so happy to have my friend back, right? Like, we were joking again. We were enjoying being around one another. And I didn't realize what I was doing to our relationship. And God knows if that continued, what would have happened to us. So I'm happy I was able to kind of bring that light to it and ask for help and push myself through this. And I guess that's the one thing I would tell anyone that's listening to this that might think they have a problem. Chances are you probably do, even if it's a small one. Just don't let it become, a bigger or bad one, to a point where you are blacking out or you are going through withdrawals or whatever that looks like. So just don't ever be afraid to ask the most important people in your life for help, because they're never going to judge you.
Right. No, well said, man. How did you, I'm curious, tell me how your wife and you had the strength to say, hey, God has a plan for us to have another daughter. How did you move forward?
You know what? It's funny. So again, growing up in a Catholic household, going to Catholic school my entire life, I was always kind of pushed into my religion. I never really practiced my faith. I'd say even more so, I'm still struggling with that today. And yeah, we had questions if we were going to try again. We had struggled for years to be able to have our little boy Cohen. We tried for about 4.5, 5 years. We went through all the medical procedures possible, emptied out our bank accounts, and ironically enough, after doing a couple of failed IUI sessions, we went to a Chinese acupuncturist who people swear by, who focus on infertility. And day one, we stepped into her office. She said, in 90 days, you'll be pregnant. And this is after 5 years, right? So being very, very skeptical. She changed up our diets. We went for acupuncture 2-3 times a week. She would make my wife burn sage on certain pressure points on her body. The strangest things you could think of. And even from a diet perspective, mine was very in line, but my body doesn't agree with oats, peanut butter, peppers, mushrooms. These are the weirdest things, just eliminated from my diet. And on the 90th day, my wife goes into the office by herself because I was at work, and she says, "You're pregnant." And my wife calling me all excited, like, "Okay, just calm down. Like, I don't want us to get our hopes up. We've been here before." And I shit you not, 2 days later, she took a test and she was pregnant. And I don't know if it was the placebo effect or we put, faith into a higher power. I have no idea. But we ended up, of course, getting pregnant through through those means. And it was the same thing with our daughter, Sissy. We did the same exact thing. And we named her Sissy because that's what Cohen would call her. She was a little sissy. So when she passed, we gave her the name Sissy. But we did the same exact thing. We went through the acupuncture and we were fortunate enough to make it happen again. But I guess the roundabout question to knowing how we had the strength to do it and when we decided to versus going maybe the adoption route or something like that.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods who continue to be just an amazing loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit catchsitkaseafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
I don't have an answer for you. I just knew that from the day I knew I wanted to be a father, all I wanted was a little boy. One to teach football to, lacrosse, baseball, do all the cool dad things. And the second I found out I was having a daughter with Sissy, my mindset shifted. Love my son, and I'm going to do all those things with him, but all I cared about at that point was doing the tea parties, dressing up like the prince and the princess costumes. And I just knew I didn't want to give up on that dream. If we had to try 10 more times and have 9 boys to have that one girl, I was going to do it. I don't know if my wife would have agreed to it, but I think I just had something in myself that I need to be a girl dad. So my wife agreed to it, obviously, and we did what we did best.
Wow. Yeah, I can tell you, man, that's awesome. But I love having a son. My son's 15. My daughter is 13. My daughter, my son will joke if he hears this ever, but she is the toughest one in our family. I mean, it's insane. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely from my wife. I'll take 2% credit. My wife's taking 98. She's so tough. Like and stoic, very stoic in nature, very like neutral, never does it get too high, doesn't get too low. It's amazing. I don't know where I get inspiration from my daughter when I see her go through these things. And so when she gets older and you'll experience these things, it's the best. And every cliche is true, as you probably are starting to feel. And I remember when my son was 9 weeks old, and my neighbor, Casey, they're going to be in high school before you know it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Can I just enjoy this? Like, he's got him in the baby Bjorn or taking a walk on the block. That was yesterday, dude.
Yeah.
That was literally yesterday. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I'm freaking 45. I feel like I'm 15. Some of my dad jokes are not on par anymore, but like, I'm like, but it goes fast. So like the only advice I give you as dad has been through a little bit is just, live each day to the fullest. Like it's going to be stressful. There's going to be times where people are screaming and crying. Take a deep breath, walk outside, don't go grab the freaking 5th of whiskey and cannonball it. Take a deep breath, maybe have a beer and then go back inside, not 12, but, you have so much joy and fun ahead of you, man.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I will tell you, and most people may or may not agree, I mean, COVID has been one of the worst and best things that ever could have happened to our family. One, we all work from home now, so we get to see each other a lot more. But two, I got to see my son grow up for a year. My wife and I worked part-time essentially while we had our son home because it wasn't out of daycare at that point. We weren't going to let him either. But I got to see this little infant baby develop into this little toddler he is today. So every reason of the positives and negatives, I can't blame anyone because it was my wife and myself that were really, really teaching this kid, right? Instead of the teachers itself. So it's been unbelievable. We're thinking about doing the same thing with little sister is what we call her right now. We might keep her home for a year to be able to hang out with us. But I don't know, this whole COVID thing, I'm not even getting into it, scares us all here a little bit. But Yeah, I'm super excited to have that little girl in this house, and can't wait to share photos with you in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's the best, dude. That's cool. Um, okay, so before we dive into some of the stuff, tell me how did you get in this Leap business, and maybe share just briefly for folks at home, like what is it, and how did you guys get in it?
Yeah, so very, very, very long story short. So, failed out of college my very first year at East Tennessee State University, joined a frat, got in some trouble, was asked to leave, moved back home. Mom said, okay, you fucked up, go pay for school yourself. So I had to pay for school myself at that point, got my
Sorry,
associate's
I'm
degree.
laughing. Was asked to leave.
Yeah, I was actually asked to leave by the president of the university and the president of the fraternity. I'll go into details with you later offline,
Okay.
but yeah,
Okay.
accusations that never actually happened. But yeah, so moved home and I had to get my stuff together. And I said, okay, I'll get my associate's degree in psychology, work some part-time jobs. And, this is a pretty important part to the story is I faked it till I made it. I made up some resumes and I got myself some jobs that I was not qualified for. And I would leverage those going to the next one while also getting my undergrad in economics. And I was fortunate enough that we had a family friend that worked at NBC Universal at the Broadcasting Center. I was in there during a time of a big, big digital translation, especially within NBC Sports Network and the integration of the Comcast sports networks. So long story short, hourly employee, worked my way up to be one of the younger technical managers in NBC's history, got to work on the Olympics, which was fantastic. And my wife at the time was working for H&R Block, took a job out in Kansas City at their corporate office. And I decided to make that transition with her. At the time, I was working at Samsung on an internal HR team, working from home. Realized I really didn't like working at home. I needed that team environment, and I started applying everywhere. Being an East Coast background kid, your background is very sexy for Midwestern cities. They'll hire you just for your experiences and having some different perspectives. So I had a lot of job offers, and my wife, ironically, applied me for this job with what was then called Leap Hospitality. This small little entrepreneur guy who had a furniture and fixtures business that focused on the restaurant and the hotel industry, who had started up a recruiting division. Didn't really know what he was doing. And quite honestly, I didn't either. But I had interviewed with him and I just pretended I was the absolute shit. That I was going to make him a millionaire by doing it. And I remember the day I got the job offer from him. I also got a job offer from a company called SMG, a big marketing company out there. And I thought of myself as the corporate guy. I want to work my way up the corporate ladder. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. My wife pushed me into a job with him, and I hated her for it for the first 90 days. Building up this new business with this guy who I barely knew, who put a lot of faith into me. It was a struggle. Learning a new industry in restaurants. And that kind of transitioned us into becoming a powerhouse of restaurant recruiting, really at the private equity level. So Leap Hospitality then again was a small niche recruiting firm that focused on store level management within the restaurant industry. And then, of course, a very established furniture business. Since then, we have rebranded to just Leap Co. Because we have really gotten into different verticals outside of one restaurant from a recruiting perspective. Same thing with the furniture, but then we kind of use that mantra of fake it till you make it to kind of diversify into some other areas. And you had mentioned in my intro, getting into some M&A activities. So, we're not investment bankers, we're not brokers, at least yet, but we know a lot of people with money, people that are willing to sell companies. So we brought a lot of these groups together, closed a couple of deals, and it built up a reputation for us that we can do a lot of other things outside of just recruiting. So we really consider ourselves a consulting agency at this point with all the partners that we do work with. Of course, then we leveraged all of our success in recruiting to develop what we call the $1 Million Recruiter e-course. So originally it was a book I had started about 3 years ago. I don't know why in my right mind I thought I wanted to write a book. You can probably talk to that a bit more. And having read your book, you did it right. I was not doing it the right way. But we thought we can leverage this into an e-course during the COVID environment like everyone else. And really our thought and logic of thinking of that was as the recruiting business grew during the COVID times was, we don't have enough manpower to really service all of our new clients and all of our existing ones. So what we can use is the $1 Million Recruiter e-course as our lead generation platform to actually create a licensing program, an affiliate program, so we can actually have satellite offices of entrepreneurs who have an interest in getting into recruiting that have taken the course and help them build up their business. So very long-windedly, it started as a very small little operation to what we're calling more of an enterprise today. And we just got started on the licensing program. We have 5 licensees, or we're calling them affiliates today, who are recruiting with some of our clients, bringing some of their own. And that's going to be our ultimate growth really strategy, is really growing out that brand. We'll always continue to recruit for our current client base because, one, we really enjoy it. Me personally, I really do. But we don't know where it's going to go, right? Just all these new ideas that are popping into our heads. We have 3 or 4 new stealth things in the works that I'm sure Pat doesn't want me to talk about too much today, so I'm going to leave that on the back burner. But,
Okay.
Just a couple of entrepreneurs got together. We took some risks. I am extremely tolerant. My partner, Pat, is extremely adverse to risk. And, he's been able to develop with me a little bit more, where we're seeing a lot of really positive things happen. And, I think sky's the limit for us, to be honest.
Very cool. That's awesome. I'm intrigued by all that thing. I think it's really cool. And I think I love the mindset of just, setting a goal, staying true to it. I want to go back to the Chinese acupuncture. So maybe we might need to talk about that offline, but I'm definitely intrigued by that. I mean,
yeah. So, of course, we live by it, and I don't know how my wife fell upon it. She got very big into the big mommy groups on Facebook during that time, the infertility ones, right? And, having tried so many times doing the IUI and all the procedures that, of course, she really had to go through, not so much myself, but someone just said, my friend tried this, they swear by it. And I know the very first day we met with, her name was Mary, who spoke extremely broken English. I never knew what she was saying, extremely high energy, just a really funny person to be around. I'm not going to do the impression, to be honest, but what she said was that she had 98% success rate. And again, just going into it, just saying, for $4,000 or $5,000 a month versus the 10, 12 we were paying, it was worth the risk. And, I don't know what to say. I know that it works. I know that if you believe it and you follow what they say, that it can actually happen. And I just really hope anyone that's struggling out there to seek all these things, try all these treatments. But before you put your body through what my wife had to previously, try it. Try the Western medicine first.
Yeah, no, I've circled it. I'm gonna follow up on that. Okay, so as you think about your dad game, you think about what the lessons you've learned from your mom, maybe your grandparents, other people in your life. We as dads, we're not perfect. We got gaps. I mentioned earlier, like one of the things as a dad for me, I always have to be focusing on patience. And it was one of my dad's gaps. I joked on my solo episode, he could drop the most amazing goddammits. And then he created this word called shut it up, which I didn't know what it meant. So like there's like hashtag now my buddies, like just to kind of like bring smile to my face about my dad, but they would say, shut it up, Casey. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. What does shut it up mean? So sarcasm aside, patience is mine. So as you think about you're a new dad, younger dad, but talk about an area of your dad game that maybe, it's maybe not where you want it to be, that other dads at home can relate to on where you're trying to just notice a difference, be that ultimate leader of your home.
I would like to give myself as much credit as possible. I think I am one of the most present fathers that I know. Most people don't realize that how much I work, I never sacrifice even 1 minute with my son. And if I could just relay to everyone, like I said, treasure those times. I wake up with him every single morning. My wife lets me sleep in nowadays, but I get to see him an hour before he goes off to daycare. I get to help him make his lunch, do breakfast. The second he gets home at 4:00 every day, phone goes away. We spend time together playing. We cook dinner together. We have dinner together as a family. And then I get bath time. So every single night, me and him do bath, which I hate to say, the past week and a half, he likes to take showers now. For a 2.5-year-old, it's very weird because that's all he wants to do now is just hang out in the shower, me and him. But an area, I guess I would say that I struggle is raising my voice over very minuscule things. And I don't ever do it in a really bad way. But again, because my time is so precious and it's something I'm trying to really work on because every minute of my day is accounted for. As soon as I get off my schedule, even a little bit, I just completely fall off my rocker. 6:02, if we're not up in bath, something's going wrong and I get really, really irritated. I don't think my son feels it, but I kind of redirect it at my wife. And I think as a father, I need to stop doing that. It's not her fault that we're 2 minutes late for the bath time. It's not her fault that he found this new ball that he wants to play with, right? And I think as a father, I need to make sure that I'm continuing to show the respect in front of my son that she deserves. And I never say I do it in a bad way, but knowing what the worst father looks like, I have a pretty easy playbook to what at least a decent father looks like. So yeah, just like I said, just be present. That's the biggest thing. And you told me that the last time we had talked. When you're with your kids, your phone goes off and goes away, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to practice every single day too.
That's good. It's there's have you heard of the Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday? I think we talked about that, Ryan
I have,
Holiday.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
Holiday, there's a Daily Dad blog that I subscribe to. I literally, it's part of my habit now. I journal in the morning. I look at a daily scripture. Sometimes I have no idea what it means. I'm definitely more of a spiritual guy than a religious guy. Um, and then I read the Daily Dad email that comes to me, and it literally takes 30 seconds, and I'll make sure it's linked in this episode.
Awesome.
But it's so helpful. And there was one recently that talked about in 15 years, when your little dude's like, stud lacrosse player or a trumpet, whatever he's doing, are you going to remember the fact that it was 6:03? Right.
No, you're right. You're
You're
right.
not.
Yeah.
And so and trust me, I living by a schedule for kids is so important. And I believe, and I think it helps create, a better napper, a better, happier person. But sometimes, like, my wife was a freaking beast with this and so helpful about, like, just, hey, I know we're going to be off nap time, but guess what? This is a life experience that we got to go enjoy and have fun and enjoy and go do it and chill out, dude. And I had to have the self-awareness to be like, damn it, she's right. And one of the best pieces of advice I got in my life is you can be right or get what you want. Really, and you don't get both. Rarely do you get both. And so a lot of times I think, as you said that, you made me think about that again around just like, it's cool to, but I think what I love that you did is like, we're able to admit that, right? And that's half the battle. And now at least you can notice yourself making a difference when you choose the Chris you want to see come out versus the angry deadlifting, throw the weight down Chris.
It's so funny because my wife's the same exact way, and she hates when I say this because it's not entirely true, but she's very laissez-faire in the way she approaches her day. If she starts work a couple minutes later than normal, works a little bit later, she's fine with it. And as you say, it's all about the experiences. And even when we're on vacation, I hate to admit it because my wife and I have been together for 10 years. We've taken 1.5 vacations together because it's always been focused on work. And we've done a lot of little other things together, and we just enjoy every minute that we have. But we went to South Carolina this year with my son for the first time, and we were on his same sleep schedule. One, because I had a lot of work that I had to get done during his nap time and do certain things, and she would just like scratch her head saying, "We're at the pool. The kid's not going to go to sleep. Why are we yanking him out of here? Let him enjoy this, right? Let him make a mess of doing this and that." And again, for whatever reason, it's something that I still struggle with today, but I'm working towards it. So I'll share some of those with you too.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Well, as we get ready to wrap up here and go into the lightning round, as you think about all the things we've talked about, I think we've covered a lot of deep conversation, deep things that dads at home can take from this conversation. If you were to give dads actionable tasks based on your ups, your pros, your cons that you're experiencing every day, what would be 2 or 3 things you'd advise dads at home to become that ultimate leader of their own household, that ultimate quarterback of their household? What would you say to them?
So I live by this mantra now of pretend that you have a documentary crew following you around the way you live your life, that you're exposed to everyone, right? So as a father, always assume your kids are watching. You want your kids to always see the best of you. And it's okay that if you make a mistake every once in a while, but know when and how to admit that and how to rectify that. I think one of the challenges I had, at least early on as a father, if I had done something wrong or even as a husband, I would try to buy that love back to say, I'm sorry. That's not what you need to be. You need to be intentional about the way that you're asking for forgiveness and truly believe it and truly show it. So that might be even 1, 2, and 3, right? Just be extremely intentional about everything that you do. And just again, it's okay to be wrong, like you said. You don't always have to be right.
Love it. Pretend a documentary film is fun. I love that. Own your gaps. You can't buy love back, and be intentional. One of my friends, Darren Ballmore's, talked about, I think it was like early in season 1, we talked about the power of saying you're sorry.
Yep.
And or admitting where you've failed or you didn't go. I mean, that is a gift you give your kids, because our kids think we're perfect and life's like, mom and dad don't ever mess up. But there's a time I tried to do a TED talk where I left corporate, and it was like, wasn't ready for it. Maybe it was wrong guy, wrong time, wrong. I don't know what the reason was, but I didn't get it. Couldn't wait to tell my kids I failed.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait.
Yeah. Well, something I would tell some of these fathers who have younger kids that are just about to start talking, they listen to everything you say and they're going to say it, right? So early on, we don't use profanity in the house. If it does, it's very, very rare. But I was being very intentional that if I was angry, I stubbed my toe, I would say fudge instead of the F word. Hearing fudge come out of your kid's mouth is just as terrifying as hearing him say the F word. So I had to replace fudge.
Mother fudger?
Mother fudger. When I heard him say, oh, fudge, I'm like, oh my God. My wife looked at me, what did he say? I'm like, yeah, I did good. He says fudge. He doesn't say the other word. So what we do now, when I'm angry, I scream cereal names, Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch. And it is the funniest thing. When he gets angry, he'll do the same exact thing. Make fun of those tough situations. And if that doesn't bring a smile to your face, hearing your kids yell out cereal profanity versus an actual cuss word, I don't know what else is going to do it for you.
That's hilarious. That's really good. Okay, before we go into lightning round, I want to know, how can people... Actually, no, we're going to go lightning round. Then we'll find how people can follow you. So lightning round, your goal is to answer these as quick as you can. Okay. My goal is to hopefully bring a giggle to your face and be as random as I can.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay. True or false? You once deadlift 700 pounds.
False.
Okay. True or false? You will win the CrossFit Games this year.
False.
Okay. Tell me the last song played in your phone.
God, this isn't lightning round. It's that TikTok song. A, B, C, E, F, U, and your mom. I don't know the name of it. I don't know. I hate to admit that, but it got stuck in my head. I had to look it up on YouTube. So,
okay. If you were to book the second vacation, you and your wife, where are you going right now?
Bali.
I like that. I want to go there. If I was coming to your house for dinner, what are you gonna cook for me?
Oh, geez, I know this is lightning round, but I want to make sure it's a good one. Chicken parm, but instead of red sauce, we're going to do vodka sauce.
Sounds good. I'm getting a little hungry.
Italian household.
There we go. Tell me the last book you read.
Win the Relationship, Not the Deal.
No, I did not tee him up for that one, everybody. That I kind of forgot I did that. Well, you did that, so thank you for that.
The second one would also be Buy Then Build. That was the other one.
Buy Then Build. Okay, love that. If you were to have someone write a book about your life, what would be the title?
Work in Progress.
Okay. Now I always like asking this one. Your book is just killing it. New York Times bestseller. It's now becoming a movie. You're picking up Golden Globe awards, but I want to know who has been the Hollywood actor of your choice that's going to play the Chris Wunder.
Mark Wahlberg.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's not because I'm wearing all of his municipal swag that my wife bought for Christmas, but yeah, that guy, that's my dude right there.
Funky bunch, baby. Okay, and then last question. Tell me 2 words that describe your wife.
Caring, loving, smart. I'm going to leave it at 3.
Okay. Caring, loving, smart, love it. You've made it through the lightning round. Congratulations. I always love doing that. It's a fun way to end each episode. If people want to learn more about you, they want to connect with you, they want to follow you, your stories intrigue them, tell me what is the best way I can link your contact info in the show notes, whether it's social channels, etc.
Yeah, so Instagram is the Chris Wunder, and that's Wunder with a U, so Wunder. I'm not as active on there as I would like to be, but Instagram would probably be the best if you want to see the true Chris Wunder. And LinkedIn, being a recruiter, that's where I live, right? So I believe on my LinkedIn account, it's Christopher, and then Chris in quotations, Wunder.
Okay.
And eventually I'm gonna start a TikTok. Apparently that's where these kids are living nowadays, and this is where I'm gonna make some money. So, TBD, TikTok.
There we go. I've yet to get on the TikTok game. I'm maybe the old guy, but maybe you've inspired me to open my eyes to that one. I want to say a huge shout out to our sponsors who've been with us for going over a year and a half. Catch Sitka Seafoods. If anybody loves seafood, please give these guys a shot. They're a small business out of Sitka, Alaska. They were impacted early by COVID. I don't get free fish them. I buy it. I absolutely love it. Assam and his wife, they've turned my daughter, who was a quote a pizza-tarian, into someone who loves cod, loves halibut, loves smoked salmon. It is as fresh you can be. They make it really, really easy to cook fish. They send you this easy baking card, tons of great recipes. I can't say good enough things about them. Then my boy Bob coming up in Northwest. If you live in the Seattle area, they have homes all over the state. Acme Homes WA, check them out as well. But Chris, man, I'm so glad you reached out to me. I'm so glad I had a chance to share your story. I can't wait to see pictures of little sister when she arrives here in a few weeks. But keep doing what you're doing, man. And I appreciate your time. It's been fun talking to you.
Thanks, Casey. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you, Chris, so much for your time, for joining me on the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to just say thanks again for what you shared. And a couple of those things that really hit home was the part where you talked about pretending that a documentary is filming us. Own those gaps, everybody. And man, think about it. If we had a film crew following us each and every day, how would that change the way we interact with ourselves, our kids, our spouse? And be intentional. We've talked about that in a lot of previous episodes. And just be intentional with your time. This hourglass of sand that we have as dads is not slowing down. It's only speeding up. So appreciate the time we get. To my listeners, if you've not yet leaving me a review or leaving us a review in iTunes Store, Spotify, wherever you consume your podcast, please do so. That'd be a huge favor to ask. Leave us a rating. Ideally, the more stars, the better. That's the way we're going to be found more easily in the podcast networks to support other dads. But lastly, just thanks again to our sponsors, Catch Sitka Seafoods and Acme Homes. Appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. And with that, we will see you next week on another episode of Quarterback Dadcast.